With the upcoming release of the Tom Holland starring live-action Uncharted film, I thought it'd be a great time to revisit the game that made the series a household name, Uncharted 2: Among Thieves. Developed by Naughty Dog, the 2009 action-adventure game is widely considered to be one of the greatest video games of all time, but will that title stand in 2022? This was a watershed game, signifying an enormous leap in several categories. The video game world just hadn't seen something with its level of polish. The elaborate set pieces, the filmic presentation, and its technical achievements were simply miles ahead of anything else that had come before it, setting an absurdly high standard for years to come. But that was all the way back in 2009. Video games have long matched or well surpassed many of Uncharted 2's achievements at this point. What about it has managed to stand the test of time? What are some things that are definitely showing their signs of age?
Boy, it's a shame you have to sit on something that big.
Snap. Click.
The truth is, I don't even know where to begin. This was the first game I got with my PS3 back in the fall of 2009, and it has remained one of my all-time favorites. This is a game and series that has meant a lot to me over the years, so much so that I even freaking went as Nathan Drake for Halloween when I was in college, with Mary playing an excellent Elena here. Oh wait, even before that, at PAX Prime in Seattle, we got to pose as Nate and Elena at the Uncharted The Nathan Drake Collection booth. Mary looking a little too gleeful holding that AK. Embarrassingly, in high school, I wore my sick Parvis Magna ring that came with the special edition of Uncharted 3 to class for a while, thinking I was super cool like Nate, but I wasn't. Look, my point is, this is a video game and series that I hold very near and dear to me, and the thought of this still not being the greatest video game of all time kinda stung when I started my playthrough for this video. Are the graphics, which were beyond cutting edge at the time, going to age poorly? Is the writing not nearly as Academy Award worthy as we all thought upon release?
With the stuff that we did, it wasn't Shakespeare.
Well, my friends, we'll discuss all this and more. Alright, I've been stalling long enough. Let's see if Uncharted 2 Among Thieves holds up. Part 1. Story, characters, and presentation. Uncharted 2's story was never meant to be the deepest or most interesting. The actual narrative is pretty cookie cutter.
Christ almighty.
Bad guy wants to do something bad, good guy wants to stop him. It serves its purpose, but I think it's generally remembered as solid, if not particularly memorable. Reading some contemporaneous reviews, the story wasn't quite as revered as its storytelling, and I feel that that's an accurate representation of Uncharted 2 today. The hype with this game came with its presentation and polish. As I said earlier, a big appeal of Uncharted 2 was its cinematic fidelity.
A lot of people pay lip service to trying to tell a good story in a video game, but they don't really take the steps necessary to deliver on that promise, and our team really has embraced that challenge, and I think we're providing a level of character-driven plot that most games just aren't capable of doing.
I remember jokes from the time often talking about how the game just felt like you were watching a movie, and that still holds true as far as its presentation goes. Within the unique medium of video games, your game doesn't necessarily need to look like a movie to effectively tell your stories. For instance, BioShock manages to tell an incredibly engaging story with great characters strictly from a first-person perspective with a silent protagonist completely devoid of the look and feel of a movie. Most video games just didn't make the effort Uncharted 2 did to get that tangible cinematic feeling. And even still, with video games that did have more movie-style cutscenes, the presentation and polish of Uncharted 2 just blew everything else that had come before it out of the water. A big element of Uncharted 2 that I'm happy to say still works are its characters and their interactions.
Had to grease a few palms. Did go through the rest of your money, and a good chunk of my own, but hey. Jesus, you stink.
Yeah, not half as bad as that cigar. Hey, how'd you find me?
Well, a friend of yours asked for my help.
Hello, Nate.
Oh, no. No.
Now, wait a second.
Sully, kick her out and shut the door. We're safer in here.
All of the main characters, except maybe the lead villain, are engaging, interesting, and fun to watch. You get their motivations, their wants, their place in the story very well.
And all these people sort of are satellites around him that reflect different aspects of his personality and pull him in different directions. And then we want to just see what happens when the shit hits the fan.
Nathan Drake cemented himself as video game's #1 charming everyman with Uncharted 2, and suffice to say, everything about his character works absolutely perfectly. Is what I would say if that were true. Having thought about Nate's actions for more than 1 millisecond, his character starts to break down for me. Call it ludonarrative dissonance, call it whatever you want, but I found Nate in Uncharted 2 to be somewhat difficult to sympathize with in retrospect. You know, to start with, he's one of history's most sinister mass murderers. According to this Quora post, Nate allegedly kills nearly 1,000 people in Uncharted 2. Now, obviously this is a shooter and players need to have some gameplay, so that number is inflated relative to what it'd be in real life, but however you swing it, he's an incredibly effective murder machine. But wait, you cry, he's just killing people trying to kill him. Yeah, no, after his release from Turkish prison early on in the game, he had every right and reason to go do something else, find a different treasure. He didn't even know the more sinister elements to Lazarevic's plans until much, much later.
What would a man become?
As far as he knew when the adventure began to unfold, he was just competing with someone else over a large sapphire.
A perfect raw sapphire of the deepest blue, larger around than the reach of a man's arms.
Ooh, that's gotta be worth millions.
Hundreds of millions.
For that sapphire, and maybe to get revenge on Flynn, I guess, Drake was willing to murder countless people in Lazarevic's army. Oh my god, Nate! What have you done? You just killed Vladimir! Vladimir was from a small Serbian village called Gostilje. With a population of just 242 people, Vlad was a 22-year-old who joined Lazarevic's crew due to the relatively high pay. He was sending money back to his family, providing them with a better life. He was also close to saving enough to help send his younger sister to college in Serbia's capital of Belgrade. Thanks to Nathan Drake, his family's hopes and dreams were crushed. You ever wonder why Lazarevic's crew can't ever seem to hit Nate or his team? It's because they're all just poor young men stripped from Eastern Europe. Laz even executed one of them for attempting to steal a $5 trinket, showing how desperate these poor men are.
You would betray me for this? No, Zoran, I can't explain. No need.
Lazarevic, ruthless as he appeared, was elevating an entire generation of families out of extreme poverty, and Nate killed all of them for money and glory. Dang. Like, okay, I'm clearly joking here, but the disconnect is genuine. Nate isn't an archaeologist, he's a treasure hunter. He thusly makes for a cool bad boy character, I guess, but ethically speaking, he's little more than a thief.
Yes!
Yeah.
We're gonna pay off those bills.
And that relates to the game's title, for sure, but it somewhat makes Drake a little harder to sympathize with. And I'm not crazy, y'all. In preparation for this review, I also replayed the second half of Uncharted 4, and I was kinda stunned to find that Naughty Dog actually slightly retconned this issue when they made it out that Nate was actually low-key super into history.
Hollyhock leaves are, let's see, don't tell me, Tokugawa clan.
Yeah, right you are.
Also at the end of Uncharted 4, spoilers, Elena actually convinces Nate to do treasure hunting in a more ethical way.
When I was on that island, I missed the adventure. I missed us. And so now we have a chance to do what we love. But from here on out, we are going to operate on a strictly legal basis, all right? And I will be doing all of the shooting with my really expensive camera.
But in Uncharted 2, he's just a straight-up murderous thief, which makes him hard to sympathize with. At least with Indiana Jones, he is a genuine archaeologist who shows real respect for his finds.
That belongs in a museum.
So do you!
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the video, hit subscribe! Okay, bye! Nate, on the other hand, is not shown to have a similar respect for history and archaeology in Uncharted 2.
Now, we're sure it's the right one.
I guess there's only one way to find out. Sorry, Marco.
He's smart and worldly for sure, but his selfishness and willingness to just utterly massacre whoever gets in his way to his next treasure just makes him hard to relate to at best, and at worst, an absolute sociopathic monster, the likes of which history has never seen.
I think within the video game landscape, he stands out. I mean, he's got a real relatable character.
Ah, yes. Massacring countless people for the sake of personal profit. Very relatable. If you're Jeff Bezos, maybe.
There's a guy above you, there's a guy above you. There's a guy below you, there's a guy below you. Now what?
It's time to tip the odds back in our favor.
Oh, that's brilliant. Guns? What are you thinking?
Relax, Gandhi. They're tranquilizer guns, totally non-lethal. Your conscience will remain unscathed.
Oh, well, good idea.
Your conscience will remain unscathed, 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 unscathed. Your conscience will remain unscathed.
What the? I won? Oh, cool, I won. Ah, thanks, everybody. Guess I'm gonna go drink my own pee now.
Again, I get it. It's in the tagline. Among thieves. Not honor among thieves, as the phrase typically goes, and this intentional omission makes sense, but your thief with a heart of gold needs, you know, that heart of gold, and there's no setup that Nate is doing anything he's doing for a good, non-selfish reason, which makes him hard to get behind. I guess Naughty Dog kinda realized this when they, spoilers, bend the fourth wall maybe a tiny bit at the very end.
You think I am a monster, but you're no different from me, Blake. How many men have you killed? How many just today? That's it, boy. No compassion, no mercy.
I mean, like, yeah, Laz isn't wrong. Nate technically had better motivations for his journey that didn't deal with world domination, but a bunch of money is not a good motivator for mass murder either.
There's no Uncharted 5.
All of this would have been 100% okay if Nate was set up to be anything but a good guy everyman, like if he was set up to be more of a Han Solo type, but he isn't really.
He's an everyman.
As for the other characters, they're all pretty solid enough. The big highlight, however, comes with their interactions.
What did you expect me to do?
I expected you to have my back.
I had your back!
How could you possibly with the other two on yours?
Good luck with Flynn. We deserve each other. You know, I can't believe...
No. You just don't know when to quit, do you? What? No witty remark?
The quippy dialogue, the various tensions between the characters, I'm happy to say these elements hold up very well and greatly elevate the material. This is one place where I feel the Amy Hennig style of writing works better than the Neil Druckmann style of writing. I like Uncharted 4 well enough, but man is it tonal whiplash.
Wow.
All right, I'm sorry.
No, it was valiant.
I was in the ballpark, right?
In a different state, but yeah, you were in a ballpark.
Hey! Jackass, you're ruining the show here.
4 was a great experience, different because Neil Druckmann directed it, and you know, with his success with Last of Us, he was fantastic. He walked right in, you know, and
sometimes Josh's stuff would be too jokey or Neil's would be too dark, you know, I mean, so.
Neither of those things surprise me.
Going from 2 to 4, both great in their own right, was kind of jarring. I don't know if it was because Druckmann was in between 2 dark and heavy Last of Us scripts, but boy does that game take itself seriously. Oh, look at baby Neil Druckmann here. He definitely had a major glow up, hot damn. Anyway, I'm getting off track here, no pun intended!
Hey, I'm Nathan Drake. If you're the adventurous type like me, then get in on the Subway Taste for Adventure for a chance to win epic trips and exclusive access to Uncharted 3. Get your code on 30-ounce drinks today. Subway, where winners eat. Now.
Part 2. Performances, gameplay, and miscellaneous. In terms of the voice acting, it's mostly top-notch. Nolan North permanently cemented himself on video game voice acting's Mount Rushmore with Uncharted 2, and deservedly so. You really buy the character of Nate through him and his mannerisms. Richard McGonigal as Sully, Claudia Black as Chloe, and all the rest deliver pitch-perfect performances. The only performance I never really buy is Seattle's own Emily Rose as Elena. Nolan, Richard, Claudia, and the rest of the lead cast were all seasoned voice actors going into Uncharted 2, whereas Emily had only done the original Uncharted game up until that point. It's not a bad job by any means, but even as a kid playing the game for the first time, I felt as though there was just something off about her performance relative to the rest of the cast, and it actually really stands out more as an adult.
I followed the tracks to the wreckage.
What the hell happened?
Easy target.
That was like did you hear that? That was a Tommy Wiseau laugh I just said. Ha ha ha.
Voice acting is a unique skill with distinct challenges compared to more traditional acting, and Emily is definitely the weakest link out of Uncharted 2's voice acting crew. As for the performances as a whole, the fact that they recorded their dialogue while filming their motion capture is a huge part of what makes it all feel so believable, especially in 2009. I think this was fairly uncommon at the time. I'm not super familiar with the topic, but I think video game developers usually do their performance capture first and then do ADR at the end, at least back then. I think doing them together is becoming more and more common as the technology has gotten better and more accessible, but as far as I know, Uncharted 2 was a trailblazer in that respect. Given the fact that it's becoming more commonplace, it is something gamers will expect. The differences between the two methods are subtle to the naked eye, but the increased fidelity is something everyone will pick up on, at least subconsciously. Despite coming out nearly 15 years ago, the fact that Uncharted 2 did its cutscenes in this way helps them feel more modern. Like I said before, I think the vast majority of the dialogue is really great. I love the quips, I love the character interactions, and it all flows extremely well. The scenes have the perfect energy that a swashbuckling action-adventure story like this needs.
See you in hell, kid!
There are a few places where things are a little dated, however. Despite Amy Hennig being the creative director, there's a lot of boyish, juvenile humor that's groan-worthy at best and kind of eye-rollingly sexist at worst.
What do you bet we follow the hose? We find the cat.
You always follow the hose.
I mean, okay, Sully's a womanizer. Got it.
Nice view.
Men.
No, I was talking about the mountains.
Okay. I mean, okay.
Boy, it's a shame you have to sit on something that big.
Oh my god. It's a shame Chloe has to sit on something that pretty. Amy Hennig, did you write that line?
We fucked up.
Druckmann, was that you? No. It couldn't be Druckmann. Have you seen how woke The Last of Us Part 2 is? I don't know. All I know is whoever wrote that line needs to get canceled ASAP. Reddit, you know what to do, boys.
Sweating like a hooker in church.
Even Chloe's ass graphics are a little like... I don't know. Come on now.
Those pants are barely on. They're just...
I get that these are supposed to be sexy action-adventure heroes, but it's hard to take some of this stuff seriously. This was simply a different era between Chloe and Miranda Lawson's asses. I think they actually removed some of the more egregious shots of Miranda's asses from the re-release of Mass Effect 2. That shit, no pun intended, definitely would not fly in 2022.
Drake is you got a boob guy and a butt guy. He's clearly a butt guy.
Who's the boob guy? Is Sully a boob guy?
Y'all want to know why it's taken decades for people to take video games seriously? Here's your proof. In two of the best video games ever made, this type of stuff managed to get the okay from dozens of people before getting released. Even in 2017 for Lost Legacy, they gave Chloe a much more reasonable ass. I mean, it's still solid, but not like, you know... oh god, I'm sorry I'm talking so much about ass here, but given how the concept of institutional sexism has entered the cultural forefront in recent times, I think it's worth mentioning.
But admit it, you're gonna miss this ass.
You give me 5 minutes in that tent, that's all it'll take.
Really? 5 minutes? Well, that's great. I won't even have to get my top off.
I'm not saying I was being manipulative, but I knew that you were the one I needed to work.
That's true. That's true. And she was the only one who auditioned topless, which I thought was brilliant.
Coincidence? Maybe not.
We're wearing these things, and there's like balls everywhere, and I'm working with Gordon.
Markers. This
And
day and age, we got to be very
specific.
That's a little... Ooh, there's electrical shock. With everything that's been going on, I don't know if this is a good idea.
There's so many...
There's a hotel not far from here.
Chloe, now is not the time.
I cornered him once in an elevator. Lovely man that he didn't press charges.
In this day and age!
Yeah.
Emily,
girls get harder than that.
We're in some weird place over in Burbank, around the corner and down in a alley or something.
This wasn't the audition, Richard.
I got the job.
You're a dirty old man, Sullivan.
Uh-huh.
Oh. Is that an ancient Tibetan ritual dagger in your pocket?
Yeah, and that was the first mocap shoot that we had, and she was like, "Don't you think I should just jump and straddle you?" And I was like, "Yes." Yes, I think you should.
Did you see the cover for Lost Legacy, Nolan? Because
Is that a game?
there were girls on it.
I think there needs to be more sexual content in the next one.
Oh, Elena Fisher, last year's model.
That's cute.
Like, are you really gonna go that deep?
Yes, I am, Samuel. I'm going this deep.
So
He said, are you really going to go that deep?
okay. Yeah, because
Again, in this climate,
Whoa,
let's just
whoa.
leave that one.
Yeah, there's
This will
something
be
great
cool.
when you can trust the people that you're in a scene with so
Yeah.
much. And
Well, except Richard.
yeah.
except Richard. Yeah.
Wandering hands.
Again, Nolan, in the climate we're in, you can't.
Well, so much for foreplay.
And remember how you get this close, and the funny thing is there's supposed to be a really nice, passionate kiss. So her face is here, and we're laughing. She's this far away, and we're moving our heads like.
And we've got the option of
This is
kissing,
this-
but then they would call Kat and I go, and release. And we sort of never did it. And he's like, you're not going to do it, are you? You can't do it. I'm like, no, hey, they said we didn't have to.
Yeah, she didn't
so-"
have to, so why bother? So
But I had to.
By blending between animations, even on different layers, and that really gives the player a lot more control over what he wants to do that's not limited by our animators.
Ah, yes, he, the gamer. Sorry, ladies, this one's just for the fellas. I think they make games for y'all nowadays, though, right? But I bet you'd still just be interested in, like, shopping or tampons or something, right? I don't know, but leave the hardcore gaming to us manly men, okay? Thanks.
Is there a problem?
No, just how do you make it go?
Push the start button.
I knew that.
All right.
I got it.
There were other parts of the game script that also didn't track 100% well to me. This Purba, for instance, it's treated as this super important thing.
Where did you find this?
Borneo. Why?
This is the key to Shambhala.
It's the one object your opponent desperately needs, even if he does not know it yet.
It opens a few doors, I guess, but that's it? What connection does it have to Shambhala or Tibetan culture or anything? It's given so much prominence, but it's just kind of there. On a similar note, they treat Schaefer at the end here like he's Nathan Drake's oldest friend or something, but really he's just in the game for like one scene before they kill him off.
You have to believe.
Schaefer.
Oh, Nate.
Oh no, Schaefer. Who are you again? Also, like, he's an actual Nazi?
Nerbe. Oh, Jesus. They were SS. Nazis.
Nazi?
There's no evidence he's, like, reformed or anything. Are we supposed to like him? Who is this guy? What's going on here? I also found that certain moments of the game's dialogue just felt off.
Come on. What do you say?
There would be times after a clunky line where I would be like, is this ad-libbed? And after doing my research for this video, I was right. It turns out Uncharted 2 had a very fluid script.
We allow a certain degree of improvisation among the actors. You know, we have the scripts. They're never necessarily set in stone. If we come up with something better on the day of the shoot, or if one of our actors comes up with a funny ad-lib that works, you know, we use it.
Or what if we do it this way? Or just in the middle of a scene, don't even ask, just change something.
Yeah, see, I don't personally like that. Maybe one or two lines here and there, but writers are writers. Actors are actors. I say let the writers write, let the actors act.
There's tons of improvisations.
The improv factor, it just makes it so much fun and it's so freeing. While you're physically constrained, you're free to let your mind say anything.
Gah. I'm obviously not saying that actors aren't creative people too, don't get me wrong. They can bring their own dimension to the scenes and their characters.
To have that kind of a freedom as an actor is rare and exquisite.
Yeah, Richard, there's a reason for that. I love actors. I think to do the job well, you have to be incredibly talented, and I'm in a relationship with one, so I have to pick my words carefully here. But giving actors creative control over scripts, in my experience, is usually a detriment, especially in larger projects like this.
The wonderful thing about the way we did the whole game, really, with Amy and everybody involved, was they were very, very open to suggestions and open to improvised moments and just coming up with our own take on things. And
That's my blood. That's my blood. That's a lot of my blood.
That's a lot of my blood. That was an ad-lib. I'm very proud of it.
Like, I know I'm in the minority here again, but I always kind of hated the last few lines of dialogue in Uncharted 2 when Nate and Elena are talking.
Good.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how scared were you that I was gonna die?
4.
4?
Yeah, why?
A 4.
Yeah.
You were at least an 8.
An 8?
You were a total 8.
An 8? Those Guardian things were an 8.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, those were terrifying.
What's a 10?
Clowns?
Clowns over my death?
I hate clowns. I hate clowns.
Oh my word. You thought I was dead.
No.
No, you thought I was gone.
No,
Yes,
no.
you did.
No, I
saw
had you all
shed
along.
tears. You shed a bunch of them.
Tears? It was raining.
No, it was not.
You were unconscious and it was
It
raining.
was totally sunny out and you were bawling.
It wasn't sunny. You were unconscious.
Whatever. I kept your tears in a jar. I have proof.
I'll give you 5. How's that?
Anyway, I wrote up to a certain point where it landed and said, and then you guys can play with the rest for the kind of the walk into the sunset, you know.
Even as a teenager, this series of lines stood out to me as off for some reason. Well, now I know why.
People talk about the ending of Uncharted 2 that we ad-libbed at the end. Clowns.
It feels incongruent because it is incongruent. The person who wrote the majority of the game's mostly solid dialogue didn't write this scene. This was ad-libbed by Nolan North and Emily Rose.
I have proof.
Totally improv.
I'll give you 5. How's that?
What a beautiful moment.
Emily and I did that.
It's more them talking, not Nate and Elena. Because of that, it honestly doesn't match well with the rest of the game's script, in my opinion, and there are a number of moments like this throughout the game. It's not a big deal, and I'm probably giving it too much attention. Oh, hey, wait. I think I know who came up with that completely bizarre "shame you have to sit on something that pretty" line.
There you go.
One of my favorite lines.
And it,
Boy, it's a shame you have to sit on something that pretty.
By the way, one of the most misogynistic lines, but
I never do anything for you.
It was not written, so I can't
shame
blame
you
them.
gotta sit on something.
Shame you gotta sit on something so pretty.
he's talking about her pooter.
Oh god, what else? I gotta move on. I guess there's not much to say about Zoran. He's maybe the most boring video game villain of all time.
pretty nasty Serbian war criminal.
Serbian.
Oh yes, he's Serbian.
I did not know that.
Did you not catch the Serbian?
It's because it's quite overt.
It's very, very. It's a particular. It's the northeastern part of Serbia.
The Uncharted series, as much as it has tried, especially in Uncharted 3, has never had particularly great villains. Flynn is above average, I guess, and Rafe in Uncharted 4 has interesting motivations that connect to our lead characters, but it's definitely a weak point in the series, and Uncharted 2, despite being arguably the best game, has the weakest main villain of any of them.
Sorry, love. This isn't a movie.
He's just a cookie-cutter Eastern European villain with about as much dimension as Mr. Game & Watch.
I think.
Oh, in the face.
I think Zoran's middle name is Zoran. I think he's
Zoran Lazarevic.
Just incredibly unimaginative parents. What shall we call him?
Zoran.
We call him Zoran.
What about middle name? Zoran.
Zoran sounds good to me.
Kind of liking the Zoran.
I like it.
Wow, he killed one of his own soldiers. How unique. Has that been done before? No? Oh wait, it has. A lot. And this is just in video games. Blah. Good performance though.
And this is Robin that you're chasing after?
Yeah, it literally, It was fun because Rob and I are friends, and we just got, hey, bro.
Yeah, dude, that guy's trying to kill you, homie.
Wow.
Tenzin
Thanks.
murdered you.
Tenzin just pushed me off a cliff.
I'm taking the girl. I speak English.
God, this sequence. Has anyone at Naughty Dog ever been cold before? I get that it's warm in Southern California, but come on. My man's jumping around with a gunshot wound in a blizzard. At least roll your sleeves down, holy cow. Speaking of suspending our disbelief, it's crazy how Nate and company just stumble upon the most incredible archaeological finds of all time and show little to no reaction. The idea that ancient Tibetans built this stuff thousands of years ago is so utterly improbable and would upend everything we know about everything. Like, Nate, you don't need that sapphire. These discoveries alone would have you set for life. Oh, another thing, isn't it weird how Shambhala is, like, out in the open? Shouldn't it be underground or covered or hidden in some way? Like, Uncharted 2 takes place in 2009, not 1909. I'm sure the Himalayas were pretty thoroughly mapped out already, and an enormous city like this would have been noticed by someone. Oh well, too bad Zoran didn't have a helicopter. Oh wait, he did! I guess Nate shoots it down. Too bad Zoran didn't have 2 helicopters. Oh wait, he did! I guess Zoran just needed 3 helicopters. Anyway, I'm definitely nitpicking at this point.
What's going on?
One place where the game continues to shine are its set pieces. Like with so much in Uncharted 2, the way its set pieces were done was simply at a level never before seen in gaming.
That represented really major hills for us to climb in terms of technology and then how we would develop the gameplay scenarios inside of those spaces and using those technologies, but they're so instrumental, they're so fundamental to the game that Uncharted 2 has become that we're very glad that we chose to do those things.
Oh, crap.
Of course, 15 years later, Uncharted 2's high level of presentation and polish are more common now, but Uncharted 2 manages to hold its own well enough in that regard even today. Notably, the train sequence, which has been talked about to death so I won't dwell on it too long, is still an absolutely extraordinary piece of work from start to finish. Easily one of the best sequences in video game history. I honestly think you could argue that it hasn't even yet been topped. I think those playing Uncharted 2 for the first time will still be amazed by it. It's a true achievement and one of gaming's best moments ever, and it definitely helps the game in terms of holding up. Uncharted 2's overall level of polish was second to none in 2009 and still holds up very well today. Its animations, its set pieces, its grandiose scale all work very well in 2022. Even the lack of load times, which was practically unheard of in 2009, help it stand on its own today. Aside from the cuts to black when the game transitions to a pre-rendered cutscene, the game is a straight-through shot, something we see a lot more of today, not so much in 2009. Unless you count Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. I think they did it first.
No, you're the dumbass who got Iggy thrown in jail. I hate you!
Oh, what the? Okay, now I feel stupid.
As for the gameplay, this is going to be perhaps the most subjective element. Do you enjoy third-person cover-based shooters? If so, Uncharted 2 is a more than serviceable one. I played through the game on hard for this review, and I found it to be fairly challenging, and I was pretty happy with how I had to strategize to tackle some of its more difficult shooting sequences. There are a good amount of guns and ways to fight, which helps keep the gameplay feeling fun and fresh. The exploration is fairly linear, and I know a lot of people argue that they feel as though the game is just being played for them, so if that bothers you, you won't care for that element, but you would have felt the exact same way in 2009. I will say, in Uncharted 4, the climbing has significantly more depth and variety, but in Uncharted 2, the exploration might be hit or miss for some. Part 3. The graphics. Upon release, Uncharted 2's graphics didn't just set the bar. They obliterated it. Every facet, from the art direction to the level of detail to the character animations to the effects, all were categorically above and beyond just about anything that had come before it. For this playthrough, I used the Nathan Drake collection, which runs at 60 FPS. The original PS3 version runs at 30 FPS. This is a minor point, and I get a ton of flack every time I bring it up, but I personally prefer the look of 30 FPS in more cinematic focused games like this. Maybe it's because I'm also a film guy and the 30 FPS just looks closer to the 24 FPS that movies run at, but something about watching a narrative at 60 FPS just doesn't look right to me. I'm not going to be a snob here and say that movies need to run at 24 FPS because that's like the optimal frame rate for whatever reason. I guess other than the fact that higher frame rates often make special effects look worse and more obvious, as many people noted when the Hobbit films were released at 48 frames per second. But the reality is that that's the frame rate we're used to watching movies at, so when a game strives to be as cinematic as possible, the higher frame rates just stand out to me as a negative.
Well, it sounds like you're working for a nutcase. Some collector who's got too much time and money on his hands. And by the way, this is not worth any of it. But there's more.
Again, I've had this conversation 100 times. I know I'm in the overwhelming minority, but motion pictures running at frame rates higher than 30 just look like soap operas to me.
The unfortunate side effect is that it makes most movies look like they were shot on high-speed video rather than film. Now, this is sometimes referred to as the soap opera effect.
The only reason I'm giving this minor point so much attention is the fact that the Uncharted series is specifically known for feeling cinematic, and in this critic's opinion, having the cutscenes run at 60 FPS kind of takes away from that a little bit. I know I can't be the only one in the world who feels this way. If you're the one other person who shares this opinion, let me know in the comments, or feel free to tell me why I'm an idiot. That works too. 99% of y'all don't seem to notice or care, so whatever, but if you're looking to experience that cinematic feeling from Uncharted 2, the 60 FPS may detract from it somewhat if you're playing it on the Nathan Drake collection, which is the most accessible way to play it in 2022. As for the graphics themselves, they're still pretty good. Even with the Nathan Drake collection, you're never going to forget that you're playing a PS3 game, but there are moments where the game still looks really good, places where they get the level of detail and lighting just right. Other times, not so much. Graphics have come a long way though, and what was once considered cutting edge now, truthfully, pales in comparison to what can be achieved today. For instance, the facial animations just aren't up to modern standards at this point. The limits of the PS3's hardware relative to what can be accomplished today are pretty clear when it comes to things like lighting and the general level of detail, but one thing that really helps it hold up is the art direction.
We've always wanted this very lush and colorful world. We want just vibrancy in all of our textures, detail. It's just all about detail, detail, detail.
The way Uncharted 2 effectively sets its tone and brings out emotion with its visuals is still second to none, so huge props to Naughty Dog in that respect. The graphics aren't bad and are by no means distracting or anything like that, but this is a PS3 game and at this point it's inescapable. So, with all of that said, does Uncharted 2 hold up? Obviously, a lot of it really does. This is an incredibly effective, pulpy, swashbuckling action-adventure experience.
At the end of the day, this is still a swashbuckling adventure, and it's still sort of about the charm and the romance.
Outside of the disconnect I feel with Nate's character actions, he's a cool, lovable guy. He can do anything. Read any language, survive any attack, is impossibly attractive and gets to choose between two impossibly attractive women, the varied environments and locations, the breathtaking action and set pieces, the solid and varied characters.
Ew, asswipe.
These elements were mind-blowing to see in a video game in 2009. In 2022, these elements are not quite as mind-blowing, but they still work exceptionally well. Outside of a few minor issues, including its somewhat dated script.
Boy, it's a shame you have to sit on something that pretty.
What? No, you know that. No! No and no!
I think most gamers will still get a lot out of Uncharted 2. If this was a 10 out of 10 in 2009, it's still like an 8.5 out of 10 in 2022. Still very much worth checking out. So with that said, I'm gonna say that Uncharted 2 does hold up with an 85-15 ratio. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and let me know in the comments what video game or movie you'd like to see done next. Thanks for watching.